As a new FPL season fast approaches, let's see if we can predict some player prices. From established stars to new signings, we'll try and guess what price tag they'll carry this season. Stick around, this might just give you some information that can help get you ahead of the pack for the new season. Let's get into it. So surprise, surprise, we're going to start with Mo Salah as we go into the top 10 scoring players of 24-25. He climbed 1 million throughout the season. It's the highest scoring season of any FPL player in history. I do think, though, he's going to get an increase, but I think it's going to be to 14 million. Some people may think it's going to be 14.5, 15. But the reason I think that is because I think it's going to be balanced with Erling Haaland's price. I don't think he was due. I don't think he warranted the 15 million that he got last season. His numbers, obviously because of injury, his numbers didn't quite match up to that 15 million. And I think they're going to balance the two and both make them 14 million and make us make a decision to make come the new season. That's my prediction. You can think different. Let me know if you do think different in the comments. But that's my prediction for them too. Anyway, moving on to Brian and Burmo. Move or not to Manchester United, potentially. I think it's going to be increasing. That's pretty obvious. We all know it. He's the second highest scorer. I think it would be cruel for him to go any higher than 9 million. Starting at 7 and sticking him up 2 million. There's going to be a lot of players that are going to be knocking on the door of 10 million this season, and that's what I've reflected in my predictions. So let's go with 9 million. Let me know if you think he's going to be about 10. Some people will think that, but I think 9. So moving on to Alexander Isak. I think this guy is going to be the first striker to break 10 million since Erling Haaland and since Harry Kane's left. I think it's just been Erling Haaland on his own who's been a 10 million plus striker in the last couple of seasons. So I think it's Alexander. I think his numbers warrant that. And he definitely won't be below 10 million come the start of the FPL season. Speaking of 10.5 million, Cole Palmer. Interesting season. He had the epic start. And then a highly disappointing second half to the season with only 4 returns from game week 22. His scoring certainly levelled out the good start he made. So I think he will stay at 10.5. I still wouldn't be surprised to see him go lower, but I do feel they will keep him at that 10.5 million mark. So let's move on to Chris Wood. £6 million he started at last season. What a bargain he was if you started with him like I did last season. He was one of the main reasons I had a very, very respectable finish last season. I kept him certainly for the first half and the majority of the second half, although we did disappoint a little bit, certainly towards the last 10, 12 game weeks of the season. Like Mohamed Salah, having his best years in his 30s, it seems. I think 20 goals. I think it was 20 goals he got in the season. I think that will warrant a 2 million price rise from the 6 million. He rose 1.2 million over the course of the season. So I think 8 million. I think that's a good shout for the upcoming season. Let me know what you think on that one. Jared Bowen next. As consistent as ever, to be honest. He ended the season fantastically as well, and he really does look like an option for the start of the new season. I think it's enough to give him a small bump to 8 million from the 7.5 he started. I think he's one of those players that we have sporadically throughout the season. You know, when West Ham have a decent run of fixtures coming up, or we can see Bowen's in a particularly good vein of form. Just a little bump up with Jared Bowen, I believe. Ollie Watkins then started at 9 million last season. Again, another consistent season. Obviously, his numbers dropped a bit from the season before when he got that very impressive goals and assists haul. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but because he didn't quite match those numbers from that season, I think he will stay at 9 million. He only went up 0.2 throughout the season. He's one of those players that it was very difficult to commit on because of John Duran. John Duran being there the first half of the season, we never knew who was going to be starting. He doesn't have that problem this season, not as it stands, as Villa haven't signed an out-and-out forward. So I think, once again, I think we can see Ollie Watkins shine for Villa. So he could be a good option, especially if he is around the 9 million mark. But as you can see, looking at some of these prices, I think it's going to be tough to put together a well-rounded team with the budget we're given. Anyway, moving on to Johan Visser. Johan Visser is historically a decent option. He started at 6 million and he just had a very impressive season all round. It was enough of a breakout season to warrant a significant price rise, I think. I think it's the first full season without Ivan Toney, barring the ban that Ivan Toney had, when even then Johan Visser showed the potential that he can do. It's hard to see him less than 7.5 million, in my opinion. So a 1.5 million price rise, I think, is definitely on the cards. I don't think he's going to be one of those lower to mid-budget strikers anymore. It's one of those ones you're really going to have to consider, have you got enough money to get him? And then finally, we got Luis Diaz. I don't think he was necessarily a crucial player for a lot of us last season. Some of us may have had him sporadically, but I don't think I owned him once last season. But it's it is his best FPL return, his best Premier League return in a Liverpool shirt. Got 13 goals. It wouldn't surprise me if he stayed at 7.5 million, but because of his numbers helping Liverpool win the Premier League, I think he could just get bumped up by 0.5 million. That's my predictions for the top 10. Let me know if you think any different. I'm sure we'll all have our own opinions on it, but it's going to be exciting to see how close we can all get. This is all for a bit of fun at the end of the day. So let's move on to the new signings of the season. So let's start the new signings with Liam Delap. Now, it was a promising breakout season for him in a relatively weak Ipswich team. Signing for Chelsea, I think that will bump his price up naturally. Not along with the pretty decent numbers he got for a relegated Ipswich team. I think it was 12 goals he got. And he could be the preferred number 9 to Nicholas Jackson. I think you'll see later on, I had to add another name to this, as Chelsea have now signed João Pedro as well. So there's going to be a lot of competition for that striker spot if they all want to play that number 9 position for Chelsea. So I think a £1 million price rise to 6.5 is pretty fair. But like I say, who do we choose going into the new season if we want a Chelsea striker? We'll probably talk about it towards the end when we cover the João Pedro thing. But anyway, we'll look into Jeremy Frimpong next. Obviously, non-applicable. New sign into the league completely. I think the one thing a lot of people have mentioned, and I think a lot of us with any nous has a realisation that Jeremy Frimpong will be, or potentially will be, at risk of rotation in that Liverpool team with Connor Bradley. But he's a very attacking fullback. We know this as he played right wing back for Bayer Leverkusen. There's one positive that I haven't heard mentioned about Jeremy Frimpong, and it's just my own thoughts here. But when Mohamed Salah, he never gets rested. But say he comes off early in a game, the game's done. I think we could see, because of his wing back and attacking capabilities, I think they're considering Jeremy Frimpong full-time as a right back, but I think they can play him in that right wing position if they ever need to. And then if you consider January with the African Cup of Nations, and Salah going away for that, I think Jeremy Frimpong might be used as cover for Mohamed Salah in that time. So I think he's a really exciting player. It's just initially how much time he's going to get at the right back position. Who's going to be preferred, him or Conor Bradley? We'll just have to wait to see. Be a risk to go with him from the start, and it'll be interesting to see how his price compares to Conor Bradley. But I predicted 5.5. I think Conor Bradley maybe 5.5 as well. And then that bleeds nicely into the next one, Milos Kerkez, the new left back for Liverpool, signed from Bournemouth. I think we've got the same problem on the left-hand side as well. It's, he started at 4.5 million last season. So he's going to get a bump up naturally, even if he was at Bournemouth or Liverpool. I think Milos Kerkez, especially if you have Robertson and Tsimikas in the team as well, I think there is going to be a little bit of rotation there. If Robertson leaves, I think that'll only do wonders for Milos Kerkez's minutes. Say if Tsimikas left, which I don't see there's any sign of, I think his minutes are a bit more at risk, because I think the Robertson-Kerkez rotation could be quite frequent. But Milos Kerkez, I think, becomes a real option if Andy Robertson leaves. That's my opinion. He rose 0.8 throughout the season. So I think, again, a 5.5 million price tag would be a natural fit. I think 6 million for any of these fullbacks, even Andy Robertson, would be way too much this season. Andy Robertson's attacking returns were not there last season. So the only person I can see being at 6.5 is Virgil van Dijk in that Liverpool team. We can hope anyway. But the fullback position for Liverpool just seemed a huge rotation risk early on. We'll just have to wait and see with that one. The last sign incoming I've got here for Liverpool is the record Premier League signing. It's Florian Wirtz. Very, very good stats for an attacking midfielder in the Bundesliga. Double figures for goals and assists in the last league campaign. And he's just one of those players who passes the eye test. Obviously part of the Bayer Leverkusen Invincible season as well. You don't see new Premier League signings come in above 10 million very often, apart from anomalies like Erling Haaland. I really don't think he'll be above 10 million. I don't. 9.5 a possibility, but I've gone with 9 million on Florian Wirtz. I think it's a tough one to predict. It really is. But we're going to go with 9 million. Moving on to Ryan Aït-Nouri. Speak about passing the eye test as well. I think I think he could be a very, very good option for Manchester City. Obviously, at Wolves last season, he started at 4.5 million, rose to 0.6, or by 0.6, should I say. So I think the natural increase would be to 5.5. I think that blends in with the rest of the City defenders quite well. Obviously, we're going to all put Ryan Aït-Nouri in as we see him as a starting left back. Gvardiol move to centre back potentially. And then you've always got that risk of Pep Roulette. You know, we can easily bring Akanji, Ruben Diaz in and move Gvardiol, rest Ryan Aït-Nouri. So I think it's going to be a really difficult one to really commit with a City defender. But the upside with him is huge, I think. We've really got to keep an eye out on him, I think. And then another Ryan, the new signing, Ryan Cherki. He had okay numbers in France. Not mind-blowing, but okay. He can play on the right and the attacking midfield role. Kind of like a Phil Foden, really, in that way. So his minutes could look good. Could. But obviously this is Pep Guardiola again we're talking about. Unless you're a superstar coming into that Man City team, the midfielders tend to start around 6 to 7 million, I believe. And a lot of their midfielders, apart from Kevin De Bruyne and Foden, are priced between that number or even lower, 5.5 for Kovacic's example last season. I think Ryan Cherki, I think 6.5 million would be a fair price for him. I can't see it being any less, no chance. Could be 7. It could easily be 7, but I'm going to go with 6.5, and I think that's fair. So let's move on to Caoimhin Kelleher. I think this is a pretty easy one. Started at 4.5 last season and plummeted to 3.9, but that's only natural because he came in for Alisson quite a lot. Everybody jumped to get him in their teams as an easy route into the Liverpool defence. And then people quickly took him out as Alisson come back. But as a mid-table goalkeeper at Brentford, it's only natural he's going to be at 4.5 million. I think that's a pretty certain one. That's probably the most confident prediction I've got here today. As we move on now, I haven't nailed this name down, but Tiani Reinders is what I'm going to say. Can play attacking midfield, but it's more than likely that he's going to be deployed as a centre midfielder, or certainly one that sits alongside Rodri. He's a very versatile centre midfielder. But he had pretty attractive numbers in the Italian league. But I can see him being placed around the Mateo Kovacic price tag, 5.5. I can't see him being considered as one of those main attacking players like Cherki or Foden, Doku, etc., etc. So I think 5.5 would be fair. If he starts the season well, then you maybe consider him. But anymore, I don't think he'll be an option. But 5.5 fair. And then we move on to Matheus Cunha, who just missed out on the top 10 last season, top 10 highest FPL point scorers. Finished 11th with a very good season for Wolves. He improves year on year. His numbers improve year on year. But it'll be 8.5 million at the most, I think. I have gone with the high end of my prediction. He jumped up 0.5 million over the season, ended on 7. So that is a big jump, but I am factoring in the transfer to Manchester United, and I think he's going to play a huge part. I really do. Whether Manchester United turn the corner, I don't know, but I do think Matheus Cunha will suit Manchester United down to the ground, and I think he'll be playing in that sort of left forward, left wing role. And I think there's huge potential there. But it is one of my riskier predictions at 8.5. He could easily be 7.5 to 8. But that's the one I'm going to stick out my neck on the line. And then finally, like mentioned before, João Pedro. So if you're considering looking for a Chelsea forward for your starting team, it's going to be very difficult this season to think who's going to start. João Pedro can obviously play behind the striker if need be, but they've got so many other players that can do that as well. Once again, with these Chelsea attackers, midfielders, it's a lottery who's going to start because they just signed so many. Who do you put above one another? Liam Delap, João Pedro, or Nicholas Jackson? I really don't know. But he had a good season in numbers last season. Half decent. 5.5 million he started at as well. And he stayed at 5.5 million. I think he had a few injuries. I think it was 27 games he played last season. So he has missed 11 games. But again, because of the move, I think he'll go up by 1 million. I really do. I think he'll be on 6.5 million, just like Delap. And then we've got a decision to make if we want either of them in our teams. But again, high risk. Who's going to play? So let's move on to the next section. So last page, I just wanted to rattle through some honourable mentions. I've tried to pick one from every club that hasn't been mentioned so far, apart from the newly promoted teams. So obviously, starting with Arsenal, it's going to be Bukayo Saka that we're going to be interested in, surely. Started at 10 million. He ended at 10.4. I think that was due to an early price rise. And then we all kept him out of our teams during his injury from around January to April time. His numbers significantly dropped because of injury. So this might help us and give us a little gift. I do think they'll drop him under the 10 million mark to 9.5. And I think he'll be if he stays fully fit through the season, that's going to be an incredible price for Bukayo Saka. They cannot warrant a price rise after such an injury hit season that's affected his numbers, in my opinion. So 9.5, absolute gift. Then we've gone with, obviously, Morgan Rogers for Aston Villa. What a fantastic debut season. I think we'll see him the highest price midfielder for Aston Villa. There's no doubt about that. So I think he will take at least a £2 million price rise from that 5 million he started at. He jumped up 0.8, but now I think he's going to be 7 million come the start of the new season. Bournemouth's player Antoine Semenyo. I'm a big fan of Antoine Semenyo, even when he was a forward a couple of seasons ago. He was at times a little gem for me. Not always consistent, but that consistency is coming with him. Continues to progress every season. I just think he'll do that again. I don't think it's going to be a huge price increase, though. I think 5.5, ended 5.7. I think a natural progression would be 6 million. And that, again, fingers crossed, makes him a really, really good option for the new season. Then we've covered a lot of Brentford players, so I thought I'd go a bit different with Kevin Schade. He ended last season really well, if you remember. A lot of goals towards the end of the season. Started at 5.5 and he actually went down to 5.3. So I think that will warrant him staying at 5.5 million. But I think he is one of my ones to watch for the new season. He got 11 Premier League goals last season. I think he's still reasonably young. I think he's going to build on that. So if we need one of those cheap midfielders in our teams, I think Kevin Schade could be a guy to look out for. I really, really do. Moving on to Brighton and Kaoru Mitoma. It was actually his best Premier League return in terms of goals last season. I think, though, he'll still be decreased. I really do. 6.5 million. He went down to 6.3 throughout the season. I think that shows a bit of a lack of interest. I think we all didn't have the interest in Mitoma like we did the season before that. So I think that would warrant a little bit of a price decrease to 6 million, but we'll have to wait and see, like all of these predictions. So moving on to Enzo Fernandez and Chelsea's option. It was his best Premier League season by far. Not only numbers, but also the pass and the eye test. He did play really well. And he was even considered in some of our teams because of that really attractive price tag of 5 million he started at. He did decrease to 4.7 because we played around with him a lot and took him out. But I think a little price increase is warranted to 5.5. Even though it was a good season, I don't think his numbers warrant anything bigger. And also with all the midfield and striking options at Chelsea, I can't see him going above 6 million, really, realistically. Okay, Richie Eze. I think he's had a solid season, but it's comparable to his previous seasons. There's obviously a lot of talk about them because of his performances and Crystal Palace's performances in the FA Cup and obviously winning the FA Cup. I think he's great on the eye, isn't he? I think he'll just get a slight increase, but for me, I don't think the season was a wow season. Apart from the FA Cup, obviously, a lot of Crystal Palace fans will say, of course, it was a wow season. We won the FA Cup. But we're talking Premier League here, and it could be more, don't get me wrong, but 7.5 is just my guess in this one. It's a difficult one, but just a little bump up. Moving on to Everton now. And Iliman Ndiaye is probably the only person I could really think of that I wanted to focus on for Everton. He's a really, really exciting player for Everton, I think. Still relatively young. And I think he will naturally progress next season. Starting at 5.5, he actually went down to 5.2. So that meaning I think he'll just stay at 5.5. And on early stages, I can't think of too many budget strikers we could be interested in. But Iliman Ndiaye could be one. So certainly one to keep an eye on if he is 5.5 million again, I think. Move on to Fulham. Alex Iwobi started at 5.5 million and slight decrease to 5.4 million, but I think that's unfair because he's had the best season he's had in 10 years in the Premier League. I think he's one of the highlights of Fulham's midfield. But I just think a 0.5 increase would be fair. As his numbers were decent, but they weren't, wow. They didn't stand up off the page. So I think a little bump up is warranted because of how good a season he did have. Yeah, we'll go with 6. Cody Gakpo next for Liverpool. Potential position change next season, I think, for Cody Gakpo. I think he's going to be dropping to the midfield spot. He played more games in midfield than he did in that striker role. He was pushed out to the left wing a lot last season. So he started at 7.5 million, dropped 0.3. I think he's going to be 7.5 million again. I don't think he did anything wild to justify a price rise. His numbers were okay. They rise season on season, but I think they were just okay. Moving on, Omar Mamouche, Man City. Now, this is an interesting one. I think he's shown enough in the 6 months to warrant a price rise. I think it will, for now, just be a little bump up to 7.5 million because he will stay on as a striker, even though he can play across the attacking midfield line. he'll be staying as a striker because of the Erling Haaland injuries. I think it'd be really interesting if Erling Haaland had played a lot of the season, because I feel like Omar Marmoush could have been pushed back into the attacking midfield role a little bit more, and we could have been talking about him now as a potential midfielder. But because of the Haaland injury, Marmoush had to fill in as striker, so he'll carry on as a striker naturally. And again, with the new signings, there could be rotation risk. If you have Haaland up top, you drop Marmoush onto midfield or the wing, and he's got a lot more competition to fight for his position. But it will be a bump up, I think. But again, we'll just see with the City rotation. Manchester United and Bruno Fernandes. He's still Man United's most important player. That's a fact. That could be taken by Cunha this season. Could be. But 8.5 million and a stay at 8.5 million, I think. I don't think there was anything that was out of the ordinary from seasons before. His numbers are all very consistent season to season. So I think naturally he has to stay at 8.5. I think anything more would be harsh. Anything less would be a bonus. So yeah, 8.5. Anthony Gordon. I don't think he was the same player as the season previous to last. His numbers certainly weren't the same. Certainly his goals and assists have taken a hit. So I think he deserves to take a little bit of a price drop, and it could make him a bit more of an interesting option for us because of that. But I think it's only going to be a little price drop at that. I think he'll be at 7 million, 7.5 last season, just one of those little knockdowns. I think that's all we can expect, really. Nottingham Forest, Morgan Gibbs-White. Fantastic season for them. It was a shame it ended the way it did with that little bit of a drop-off. But him, along with, I would say he's the most important player, but Forest had a lot of important players last season. He started at 6.5 million, ended at 6.5 million. He wasn't one of those players we had often in our teams. Maybe you guys would like to say anything different, but I think I owned him once, briefly. But because he only got 2 goals and assists more than last season, or the season before that, I think just a little price rise because of how well Forest did is warranted. I think they might just bump in. Wouldn't be surprised to see him stay at 6.5, but I think 7 could be the number he lands on. Mohamed Kudus next for West Ham. That was a disappointing season. It was quite a bit of a drop-off from the season before. Didn't really replicate the promise that he showed, unfortunately. It probably sums up West Ham's season a little bit. But Jarrod Bowen, he still plods away and he's still consistent enough. But Mohamed Kudus did have a big drop-off. And I thought, 6.5 million he started at. If he had that again, I don't think that would tempt anybody. So I think a 1 million price drop to 5.5 would be fair. With him going down 0.3 over the season, we could see him at 6, but I think 5.5 million is the only way any of us would ever consider him. Unless we see him have a big turnaround in form come the next season, or a transfer, which has been touted by some media outlets, but we'll have to wait and see on that. I'm sure there's plenty more transfers to come. Then finally, Jorgen Strand Larsen for Wolves. And it was a fantastic debut season, in fairness to him. Was it, I believe, 14 Premier League goals last season? Considering how Wolves struggled, certainly early on, before the new manager come in, that's a pretty impressive return, I think. And I think with Matheus Cunha going, he's going to be more and more important than ever. They've signed him permanently now as well. So 5.5 was a bargain last season at times. He ended at 5.2 because we all chopped and changed with him so much. But I do think we'll get at least a £1 million price rise. I think he'll get to 6.5. There's a possibility of 6, but I think 6.5 would be fair, especially when you can score 14 goals in a Premier League season. So, yeah, we'll end on Jorgen Strand Larsen, 6.5 million. So thank you for sticking with me to the end. I had to put a lot of information there together. I wanted to get as much information out as I could. And also because I chose a lot of players. But it was all a bit of fun at the end of the day. It'd be exciting to see how close some of these predictions have been when FPL launches, hopefully in about 2 weeks or so. They usually like to leak some of the prices as well in the lead up. So maybe we can compare our notes and see if we got anywhere near with these price predictions. But anyway, please, if you did like the video, hit the like button and make sure you don't miss a video. Press subscribe and hit the notification bell. And we'll look forward to making that first draft together when it arrives. See you next time.